Ange says she won't work with Republicans because they want to kill her. Ange is all this, she's running on hate. And you got to run on love, Jessica. And the voters can tell. You could want to change America, but you have to do it and come from a place of love. And we know when you're coming from a place of hate, and we know when you're coming from a place of love.
Like a Muslim ban, a place of love.
We needed to. There was terrorism all across the country. You remember Barack Hussein Obama's administration.
And it wasn't all Muslim countries, but that was a good way to brand it as a Muslim ban, even though there were Muslim countries that weren't banned.
I hope you're paying attention because bringing up Trump's so-called Muslim ban seems to be the latest talking point from the left. But unfortunately for Jessica, her attempt to defend the radical socialists taking over her party falls flat on its face. Just watch.
What do you predict, Jessica, is going to happen? With Chuck especially, and the whole conundrum that Paul's laying out, where he created Frankenstein's monster that are now seeking to dethrone him while he simultaneously supports them in it, weirdly.
Well, I certainly think there's a strong chance that Chuck Schumer doesn't run for re-election. He'll be 76 years old. It's a perfectly reasonable time not to run. And yeah, if AOC wants that Senate seat, I think that she'll be able to get it. Maybe Pat Ryan jumps in. It would be an interesting contest of ideas there. But you are ignoring another side to what's happened in this cycle vis-a-vis Chuck Schumer, and that he recruited Roy Cooper in North Carolina, who's lapping Whatley, Sherrod Brown in Ohio, and Mary Peltola in Alaska, who was hesitant to run. So he has had some wins on the board. Obviously, what happened in Maine and Michigan was not what he intended. People are focused on ideas more than they are on labels.
I can't believe Jessica had the nerve to really say that. I wish someone would have said, and tell us, Jessica, exactly what ideas do the Democrats actually have? Tell us one thing they've proposed in the last 2 years. You can't. Unless, of course, she's talking about the ideas of the DSA.
Florida, I think, remains a pipe dream for Democrats. I think that Alex Vindman losing is a blessing in disguise because we won't necessarily be spending, tens of millions of dollars there, and we can send it to Georgia and Texas and Iowa. Oh, I should note that Chuck Schumer backed Josh Turek as well. But I think that there's a contrast worth paying attention to between what we're hearing from even Angie Nixon, who you said she's DSA. She's been DSA for about 60 days, identifies as a capitalist, as a small business owner. But she was asked about whether joining...
Cafe.
Okay. Yes, she's a resist lib. Okay, yeah, put her in jail. She was asked about whether joining the DSA is a distraction. She said, you all are the ones who are distracted. I'm actually going out talking to voters about the things that matter to them. The fact remains that there are people who are dying because they don't have access to quality health care. That is true. There's one party that wants you to have health care, and the other that doesn't care has been promising us a plan for 10 years at this point.
Don't you just love it when they complain about the healthcare system? The one they championed for, the one they said wasn't broken, the one they told us was supposed to make healthcare affordable for everyone. They even called it the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. So how exactly did we go from this is going to make healthcare more affordable to people are dying because they can't afford quality healthcare? And somehow that's Trump's fault.
Wash there. Abdul has a lot of energy. We'll give him that. But there is a lot of drip, drip, drip. He has to look like a patriot. And every time you hear him talk about Sharia law, white supremacy, and his mother-in-law financing jihadists, allegedly, you think this guy's not cut out for the Senate. This guy's not cut out for this country. Now, Schumer's got a lot on his hands with Ange. Ange backs reparations. Ange wants to take away my health care and give it to Fauci. Ange is for price controls. Ange is a lunatic, and she's got a mouth. Ange says that ICE is going to start killing blacks. Ange says she won't work with Republicans because they want to kill her. Ange is all this, she's running on hate. And you got to run on love, Jessica. And the voters can tell. You could want to change America, but you have to do it and come from a place of love. And we know when you're coming from a place of hate, and we know when you're coming from a place of love.
Like a Muslim ban, a place of love.
We needed to. There was terrorism all across the country. You remember Barack Hussein Obama's administration.
And it wasn't all Muslim countries, but that was a good way to brand it as a Muslim ban, even though there were Muslim countries that weren't banned.
But we all know Jessica will fail to mention that part because it doesn't align with the picture that she's trying to paint. So let her have it, Greg.
Okay, you know what it's good to remind people what Trump's support was like. He had a lot of weird and odd people who backed him, and we called it a pirate ship because even though everybody was different, they all rowed in the same direction. Big party's opposite. They aren't rowing in the same direction at all because they don't have ideas. They just have identities. Now they're paying for it. The normies are in trouble. They can't differentiate themselves. They can't say they're common sense because that's Trump's path. Here's the problem, the bigger problem with Big Tent, okay? You got a small group of super far-left fanatics who want to tear down everything. But there's a much bigger group of regular Democrats who don't, okay? So if you welcome the radicals into your tent, some will join, but then some normies, they're going to leave. That was what was happening in 2016 to 2024. So the net change is the radicals who join minus the normies who leave. And all you need is a few regulars because it's such a large group. Even a small percentage who leave, the party's going to end up smaller. And it will end up smaller. Trust me. Gaining a few intense radicals is not enough to make the loss losing the larger number of normies. It's like somebody deciding to add X-Lax to the office candy bowl. Pretty soon, everybody's going to start bringing their own snacks from home. So this is a pattern for Democrats. I love patterns. It's like women's sports and locker rooms. You know, the original purpose was fair competition based on biological sex. That was diluted. The female athletes leave. Protestant churches, do you remember when they used to be traditional? Then they incorporated far-left positions. Membership dwindled, while traditional churches, as you see, flourished. So whenever the left decides to allow the elites, kind of the elite fringe in, mainstream falls apart because the mainstream groups need boundaries to create cohesion and meaning. And once you insert people who want to upend the norms, the normies feel betrayed, and then they disengage and they leave. Another example, Daughters of the Revolution. Can you destroy them? Yes, you can, by allowing trans into Daughters of the Revolution. They can't be daughters. In fact, that's a complete betrayal. You let them in, Daughters of the Revolution, actual members will leave. Even though there's a Sons of Revolution, the trans don't want to do that. So the Big Tent pretends to be this enrichment when it's actually an erosion. The inclusion benefits only the outliers, but in the end, it destroys the institution.
They keep saying the Democrat Party is a Big Tent party, because I guess that's supposed to make their base feel better. But when you look at everything they're putting under that tent, it really starts to look more and more like a clown show, especially when you have established Democrats supporting these socialists and welcoming these insanely radical ideas. But honestly, how long can that actually last before they eventually take over the entire party? Because that's their plan, allegedly. But it seems like the Democrats will do anything to win, regardless of the consequences. And did you notice how Jessica brought up Trump's quote-unquote Muslim ban? Well, that's like the 4th or 5th time I've heard these liberal talking heads bring that topic up this week alone. And maybe I'm reaching, but I feel like there's intention behind it. And in my humble opinion, that intention is to use it as manipulation. They feel like if Trump is against it, then they can get their core followers to embrace it. Now, I'm going somewhere with this, because while the left was busy focused on Trump, we were watching in real time a growing movement of far left candidates gaining influence inside of their party. So why not ask what exactly is driving this rapid growth? If this political movement is becoming more and more influential, then shouldn't we actually examine the people supporting it? Why is no one talking about that little-known super PAC that's only been registered since January of 2026 of Muslim American mega donors that support these candidates? American Priorities is the name, and they've channeled millions of dollars primarily from donors with Arab, Muslim, or Middle Eastern backgrounds, and have been described as a pro-Palestinian super PAC formed partly as a counterweight to AIPAC rather than merely a generic Democratic PAC. And then there's the allegations involving the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, obviously, an allegation is just that, an allegation. So it still needs to be investigated and backed up with evidence. But in a recent Senate Judiciary Committee hearing led by Senator Ted Cruz, they brought up a pretty serious allegation. You see, Senator Cruz and several witnesses argued that the Muslim Brotherhood has spent years developing an established network of NGOs, advocacy organizations, and political groups in the United States. And there is concern that this network could be used to advance the organization's broader ideological goals. And then there was terrorism analyst Kyle Scheidler, who went even further to argue that some of these groups have worked alongside the Democratic Socialists of America in what Senator Cruz described as a red-green alliance. Now remember, these are only allegations. Only allegations. That being said, many Democrats on the committee rejected the hearing with a boycott and accused Senator Cruz of unfairly scapegoating Muslims. But let me know what you think of this in the comments below. Is there any substance to the fact that the media subtly wants to demonize Trump's quote-unquote Muslim ban that occurred almost 10 years ago? At the same time we're seeing this rapid growth in democratic socialism? Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.